Good morning, everybody. Welcome to today's 1 million by 1 million strategy roundtable for entrepreneurs. 1M, as you know, is the first and only global virtual accelerator in the world. Our mission is to help 1 million entrepreneurs reach $1 million and beyond in annual revenue. And in support of that mission, we do these free mentoring sessions week after week after week. This is the 445th session. More than 100,000 people have participated in these sessions, and the event is being recorded. So you will have a recording available at the 1M1M Roundtables channel on YouTube, and we have all prior recordings available there as well. Join us on Twitter at 1M or at Romana. We publish a lot of interesting content. You can use hashtag 1M1M if you're live tweeting today. These are the call-in instructions. This is a roundtable, not a broadcast, so we would like you to call in and participate, but we're not quite ready for that yet. So that's just, FYI. I will put these back up later. Line up your questions, though. We will come back to our guest conversation who's having some technical difficulty. We will start today with actually the entrepreneur pitch session. Our pitches basically are framed in a safe working environment. You don't need to be defensive. You don't need to worry. This is a safe working session. You're very welcome to come and share what you are doing and what you need help with. Just remember one thing, that it is your venture. So you don't need to feel bad about disagreeing with my feedback. It's just listen, see how that rings for you, and decide on your strategy. It's your venture. You will decide which way to go. My job is to give you authentic feedback, and that's what I'm going to do. Just remember one thing, not all businesses can raise money. Not all businesses should raise money. And raising money does not guarantee success. With that, I'm going to take you to Cloudly and Suren Reddy. Suren is going to be our first presenter. Suren, please unmute your line and tell us what you're working on.
Hi, Marna and Shamna, and thank you for giving me this opportunity. And again, I just wanted to give a background on our company, Cloudly. We are a startup of 6+ years. And again, I just wanted to make sure the safe harbor rules apply here. The information is taken from internet and public, and some of the logos are owned by their respective companies on this presentation. So again, on the right side, what you see on the first slide, you have logos. Those are app exchange applications owned by Cloudly. So these logos are, again, iComply, iPrivacy Hub, and CloudSync are 3 products of Cloudly. And so we are 100% focused on the Salesforce app exchange applications. And this is a little bit about our team. This is Suren Reddy, and I am the CEO and SVP of Global Alliances. And I do have 20+ years of experience on finance, billing, and RevRec and leader space. So we have worked prior to finding this company. We worked at a lot of enterprise companies. And the second one is Raj Berry. He is CTO, and also he makes sure customers are happy and successful. He has vast experience on the CRM, Salesforce, CPQ, CLM, and integration space. And the third person is Srinivasan, and he is VP for customer engagement, and he has a lot of experience around building practices and lot of enterprise implementations he delivered for the last 25+ years. And
so Suren, just a little bit of feedback on how you're presenting this slide. If you guys have any name brand companies that you can talk about instead of, a team slide doesn't carry much weight if you just name some functional areas where you have interest, where you have experience. No one really cares. But if you have worked in companies that have relevance, like if you have worked in, you're doing quote to cash, if you have experience in one of the quote to cash companies, that would carry a lot more weight.
Yeah, got it. Thank you for your input, Shramna. And again, I worked prior to founding this company at a company called Equinix, Wipro, and Juniper Networks, Meru Networks, which was acquired by another company, and followed by I worked at LinkedIn, Facebook, and again as a consultant. So all the places where I worked, so we had the quote-to-cash implementations and more on Oracle, Salesforce, and also the integrations with the back office systems. That's my expertise, and similar experiences goes with all our team members. And again, I just wanted to quick facts about company. We bootstrapped and founded the company in 2013, and headquartered is Sunnyvale, and locations are in India. And total number of customers we served so far is 65 plus. And we are partners to Salesforce, Conga, Aptos, and Calidus revenue management software. So
does that mean that what you're doing is implementation of Salesforce and Aptos and these other quote-to-cash systems?
Yes, we are implementing quote-to-cash systems that includes contract management, configure price quote, and billing, and integrations with the ERP system. And that includes e-signature, electronic signatures, and also legacy data migration. If you have contracts sitting somewhere in the documents, we have a tool, Contract AI, which automatically extracts and creates the contract dynamically into the Salesforce ecosystem. And as part of what problem we are solving is quote-to-cash is a happening place, and it is there for the last so long. But one thing what's happening is a lot of companies are moving from legacy systems into the cloud space. That's where the challenges are coming. And the pioneers and also the one which took the initial phase. And when we started the company, we thought Salesforce as a platform of choice, and that's where we started. And there we built a lot of IP into that one, and we have done 22 plus implementations in the last 24 months around the CPQ. That includes contract management, configure price quote, and also billing. So, and also the integrations with the back office that includes NetSuite and Oracle and SAP.
Okay.
Again, back a little bit, please, one more time. Just wanted to echo what implementations verticals we focused. We focused and also got the opportunity to work on the domain spaces that are on the biotech and computer software that goes into high tech and financial services and gambling and casinos and health and healthcare companies. So this is where we have served. And a little bit about our journey. Found the company with conquering the quote-to-cash domain as motto, and also we established a partnership with Deepen Parikh, that is right now Salesforce CPQ in 2014. And as part of that, we implemented initial 5 to 6 major implementations that includes Anaplan, Trillium, Adaptive Insight, Applied Systems in 2015. After that, the journey was great, and then we established partnership with industry leader at that time of Aptos, that is CPQ Magic Quadrant leader. And through that, after establishing that partnership, we implemented close to 30 plus implementations of Aptos, and that includes bigger names you see here, Zscaler, which is in the security space, and Shutterfly, which is again high tech, and Counsel, that is on the legal and also the health care side of it, BioFile, Ensys, and Object. A lot of other logos that we have served, around 65 plus, right? Again, that includes the combination of quote-to-cash solutions where either we just implemented contract management or combination of contract management and configure price quote and all billing, and also the integrating all the three things. So as part of this, what we did is in 2016, whatever the lesson learned as the gaps of CPQ in the Salesforce ecosystem, we built a product called Cloudly, and we address all the problems into that product to do rapid implementations and also address any of the manual tasks that need to be done to be automated so that all the customers and the Salesforce ecosystem will benefit. So that's the launch 2016, that's Cloudly, and that is 3 years into it, and it has a lot of cool features. So I'll go over in the next slide. So this is the investment I'm talking about on the Salesforce ecosystem app exchange. So that's the Cloudly. This is our flagship product, and which is 100% native because it's sitting in the app exchange application, and which does solve 3 to 4 big use cases for the entire ecosystem. The first one is one-click data and metadata migration. That helps all the developers, admins of the entire Salesforce ecosystem. It makes their life very easy in deployment as well as moving the data from one org to other org. And the second one is more on health check. So as and when during summer, spring, and winter, Salesforce releases all the features. Along with that, all the app exchange vendors release the features. So what happens as a customer, if I have one Salesforce release coming in, plus I have app exchange vendors like Apps, Zora, and again, a lot of 30,000 app exchange applications are there. If customer is using 3 or 4 of those app exchange applications, their ecosystem will get a bigger impact. So how this health check helps is if they install Cloudly and click on this health check, it goes and analyzes the entire ecosystem and also all the release features by Salesforce as well as the other app exchange vendors. It generates a report and giving them the information saying that out of these 300 new features released by these 3 applications, these 10 are going to impact your 10 integrations or customizations. So they can go and do a qualitative and also clear execution on the plan by assigning the right resources to take care of those 10 problematic integrations versus worrying about the entire ecosystem. So that's a huge use. We have done that for a couple of customers. There is a good success story. Just wanted the third thing is more on the mergers and acquisitions, life of companies which are there on the Salesforce ecosystem. If they are acquiring another company, so they can do it within a couple of months, the entire Salesforce migrations into one platform. They can bring those 2 instances, merge into single instance within a couple of months versus taking 6 months to a year in the regular normal process. That is done by Cloudly tools. Okay. And here are the 3 other, total 3 products, MVPs, most viable products in the app exchange ecosystem are iComply, iPrivacy Hub. They deal with more on enterprise compliance that includes the GDPR and other consent management, breach management, and vendor risk management areas. So definitely these are useful for all the enterprise applications which are there sitting in the Salesforce ecosystem. And again, so this is the market size what we are planning on discussing is the entire CPQ and quote to cash. So in 2017, the market estimates that $1 billion is the market for CPQ, and billing is $2.1 billion, and ERP is $31 billion. It's ever growing because of a lot is coming onto Salesforce ecosystem. Next slide, please. And again, our validation happens with 1 or 2. I quoted 1 or 2 names here. So Simplus is one of the company who we well know them, and also they raised 49.3 million in the last 4 or 5 rounds. Total 11 rounds they did. And they acquired 6 companies which are there in the CPQ space. That validates that there is a lot of room for companies like Cloudly, who is the Salesforce best domain expert, and also having a lot of functional domain for either acquisition or getting the funding from the Salesforce Ventures or other venture funds. And here are the acquired companies by Simplus. So again, 6 of them, 5 of them they acquired. And here is the company Cloudly, which is exactly same as Cloudly. All the features, we have almost similar features, plus one benefit Cloudly has, it works both on AppTouch as well as Salesforce, and also all the App Exchange applications of Salesforce. Again, they are able to raise $5 million in April 2019. That validates the viability of our Cloudly product. So here are the next steps that what we are looking on our side is raise some money for code to cash and legal domain, $2 million for our services, so that we can rapidly grow and become one of the major partners for doing the implementations and helping all the customers. And next one is Cloudly solution. We are looking for $2 million or so funding. That will definitely enable us to be one of the best products that helps all the App Exchange applications. And the privacy is the hot topic, and even California and other states are coming up with their compliance rules, regulations, and that we are incorporating into these 2 products, iComply and iPrivacy Hub, that we are looking for options in that. So, and thank you for this opportunity, Shramna, and 1Mby1M. And I just wanted to open up for the questions on from your side, and also need your inputs on our future growth.
So what is your revenue level currently, Suren?
The revenue levels right now we have is 3 to 5 million range we are in, and definitely it's more on the services side, and we are investing some of the money coming from services into this product.
So I guess the thing that is missing for me in all this is that what is the roadmap and TAM for your products? Because I would say my general observation about the financing industry is that they don't necessarily like to finance pure services companies. So I don't know the companies that you have talked about that have raised financing and what kind of product strategy they have on top of their services business. It sounds like they probably have some products. So you're going to need to, design this pitch with a separation of with a separation of services and products. And in the case of products, you have to show what is the bottom-up TAM analysis for the products and so forth. So until I look at that, it's hard for me to comment on. Generally, I do not like to separate companies. When we encounter a situation, which is very often, by the way, where it's a bootstrapping to products using services kind of scenario, we try to keep them together, use the services revenues to bootstrap the products and get the products into stride, basically, before reducing the emphasis on services. But I think the services work very well as seed financing to build the product. So I don't recommend at all that you separate the companies. And I don't think financing is what validates the market necessarily. It's an input. We have to understand why these companies got funded, because as I said, I don't believe services companies necessarily get funded that much. So what is their strategy, what products are they doing, etc., something that we need to look at. So I'm happy to help you. This is something that we know a lot about, and it's an area where we have a lot of expertise and contacts. In the investor pool for SaaS businesses, we have very deep contacts and relationships with. So if you hang on, I will explain later on in the program how to use 1Mby1M for the kinds of things that you're looking for, and then you can ask more questions, okay?
Perfect. Thank you.
You're very welcome. Okay, we are going to go to Deepen Parikh, partner at Courtside Ventures, next. Deepen, welcome to the show. I think your line is muted.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, perfect. All right.
Awesome. Sorry about the delay. How are you?
I'm all right. I heard you had some technical glitches, but we're all set and we're all here now. So,
Perfect.
well, let us start by having you introduce yourself and Courtside Ventures to our audience.
Yeah, absolutely. So my name is Deepen Parikh. I'm a partner at Courtside Ventures. We're an early stage venture fund that invests in seed through Series B across really 5 main areas of interest. And the first is digital media, primarily as it pertains to sports. We look heavily at live event and venue technology. We invest in fitness, health, wellness. We invest in esports and gaming. And more recently, we invest in this whole new infrastructure around betting. And so those are our 5 main areas of focus. Our LPs come from a strategic background. One is a gentleman by the name of Dan Gilbert, who owns the Cleveland Cavaliers basketball team, was the founder of Quicken Loans. The other is WPP, which is the largest advertising agency globally. And so with both of them, we have access to a lot of the sports leagues, teams, media companies, and also access to some of the world's top brands. And so we have invested in about 35 companies thus far. We are global investors, so we do invest fairly heavily in the U.S., but have also done investments in all throughout Europe, and have done one investment in India as well.
Maureen, is there an echo? All right, no problem. So, Deepen, what draws you to this sector? It's a particularly interesting and unique investment thesis. What is your background in the sports world?
Yeah, so my background originally started at UBS. And so all growing up, I was a huge sports fan personally. Never really saw a career in sports. As I like to tell my wife, my genes and my dreams didn't align in the sports world. But I always stayed really close in the sports ecosystem. And right after college, I moved to New York to work at UBS in a rotational program they had. So, it was a pretty tumultuous time. It was 2007 to 2010. So the markets were certainly feeling the pain, but as a young, straight out of college professional, it was an amazing experience. I got a chance to see all different parts of the bank, from investment banking to wealth management, asset management. It was during those 3 years that I really started exploring different opportunities and just talking to folks and understanding around the different businesses that exist around sports. And what I learned was sports is really a function of the media and entertainment ecosystem. And so, sports fans globally, at the end of the day, sports is really community. And so started working on my own idea right after UBS that was building a CRM platform for professional and college sports teams. And so I had partnered up with a childhood friend of mine, and we started this company and worked on it for about 2 years. We had a team of about 6. We built a good product, but at the end of the day, it wasn't necessarily something that we saw as scalable. It was more of a platform that was a bit more service-oriented, and we thought we could build a good business, but we weren't sure how large of a business we could really build. And so kind of made the difficult decision where we decided to wind it down after 2 years, and fortunately, we had actually put our own capital into it. And we hadn't raised any outside capital, so the decision was actually a bit easier up at that point. But during the conversations when we were winding down, I got connected with a family office that was heavily involved in sports and media. And so I came on to help them diligence a number of pro sports teams that they were looking to acquire. And that really was the spark of the investment side for me in the ecosystem of sports and finance and investing.
Very cool.
And so was working with them. I then helped start a incubator, an early stage fund, which was not at all involved in sports, but was one of the first people there and helped grow that. And then got an opportunity about 4 years ago to come together with my now business partner and start Courtside Ventures. So his background was he started out of Penn, his dorm room at Penn, he started a company called Crossover, which was a video analytics company for the sports industry. And so he ran that up until they sold about 2 years ago, and it was a great opportunity for us to come together and start investing in these opportunities.
And how big is Courtside Ventures?
So our first fund is $35 million.
Okay.
And in terms of team, for Fund 1, it was only 2 of us. So it was myself and my partner, and so we were traveling nonstop to really, our job is to find the best entrepreneurs, companies, ideas across our main verticals. And really, as a first-time fund, it was about building relationships with other VCs, the sports leagues, founders, and really showcasing the value add we can provide. Because at the end of the day, we are a vertically focused fund, although a lot is encompassed under the entertainment, media, sports umbrella. And so we had to kind of educate the market a little bit in terms of what we were doing.
Very cool. All right. So let's talk about some of the investments that you've made. And in particular, as you discuss them, talk about in what state and how did you find them, or did they come to you? And what is it about them that really captured your attention? So what I'm trying to get to is, how do you look at deals? What's interesting? What excites you, and so forth? And what is the lens with which you look at these ventures? And let's do maybe 2 or 3 case studies.
Sure. So, for us, it's dependent on the stage. So in Fund 1, we were so heavily focused on seed and Series A. No matter what, it's always a function of the team. There are some funds that only want to invest in repeat founders, some that want to invest in new founders, some that want to invest in founders that only have a certain background. For us, it was finding people who weren't necessarily only in sport, but had an interest around the sport and entertainment ecosystem. Because really, you're going to build something for this audience if you have a genuine personal passion and interest around it. And so that was really important for us. And so to give you an example, a company we're investors in is called The Athletic. And The Athletic is one of the fastest growing digital subscription content platforms for the sports industry. And they've done a tremendous job over the last 3 years in building and hiring some of the top writers around the entire U.S. And the model is they then charge a subscription to the consumers. And it's been, they've done really well and they've grown quite a bit. But the way in which we first met them was, what I think is a great story of understanding how relationships are kind of developed in the sports industry, or at least in the VC industry. And so we had first spoke to them about 7 months before we invested. And when we first spoke to them, they were really just kicking off the company and the idea, and started diving in slowly but surely behind exactly what was motivating them to build this, what was their unique skill set. And the interesting part of what they were doing and their background was, unlike a lot of folks in the sports industry, they didn't actually come purely with the mindset of having a traditional media or sports background. They were actually very focused on product. And so the founder of that company was previously one of the heads of product at Strava, which is a huge platform for starting with cyclists, for really anyone who's doing different endurance sports. And he understood how to build a product for a very rabid community. And so that's really what attracted us to him and his co-founder, Adam, because they had come from that world of building community. And so we spent time with them, pretty regularly over the course of the next 6 months. They got accepted to YC about 5 months after we met them, and we stayed in touch throughout YC and then invested towards the end of that. And so throughout that, we had a really good sense and understanding of how they operated as a team, how they were going to scale, their roadmap, really how they execute. And, sometimes as investors, we don't have the luxury of time. Sometimes things move a lot faster in the deals. But that was an example of a company and two really remarkable founders who said what they were going to do, laid it out for us, and really executed, not necessarily at a huge scale, but enough that we felt comfortable that this opportunity could be scalable significantly going forward with more capital.
So I have a few questions, and this is a little bit to understand, as you very correctly laid out, that a lot of the sports ventures are essentially media and entertainment ventures. Sports is a performing media, right? It's basically performance media that monetizes with advertising and television and so forth. So what is the product for this company that people are subscribing to?
Content, so written content. So as a sports fan of a local or of a team, of a city, you're paying for in-depth access to content, mainly written content. And, it may not appeal to every single sports fan out there, but it appeals very heavily to anyone that is a pretty hardcore fan. So if I, for instance, am a big Baltimore Ravens NFL fan, but I love all sports in Baltimore, D.C. area. And so by paying a monthly subscription, I'm getting access to very unique and in-depth content that I couldn't get anywhere else from the top writers.
Okay.
And
that's
so,
a large enough market, and enough people are willing to subscribe for that premium content is what you're saying.
Yeah, absolutely. And so the goal really is, how do you appeal to, obviously appealing to just the really hardcore fans is big enough to build a large business around subscription. But then thinking about how do you expand into other sports? How do you expand into other geographies, other countries? Stuff like that is really where that TAM grows even larger. And that was something we spent a lot of time around initially, right? The founders, to their credit, really just focused on executing to showcase the TAM rather than, simply just laying out the numbers, which is generally the way to do it early on. They really showcased in like 1 or 2 cities. Look, if we can do this in a few cities, think about how much more we could do on a larger scale. And so they really proved and grew into that TAM, which gave us, significant confidence to keep on investing more capital. And over time, a lot of other investors have also come in to invest.
Very good. Great. So let's do another example, and we'll do the same thing. We'll try to understand how you found them, what happened, why did you invest, and then we'll try to understand what are the implications of that investment.
Yeah, sure. So I'll give you something that is moved far faster from our standpoint. Hold on just 1 second for me. I want to make sure there's no noise here. Hold on. Sorry. Sorry about that. So in terms of a company that we can also talk through, we invested early on in a company called Beam, which was an interactive live streaming platform for the video gaming industry. And, when this was probably, I'd say one of our 3rd or 4th investment out of the fund. And so we were still getting our feet wet in terms of understanding how our process was operating. But we met this founder, a friend of mine who was at another venture fund, and I took a trip up to Seattle, and we were meeting with a number of companies. It just so happened that one of the companies we were meeting with was a company called Beam. And the founder was really young. He was 18 years old. And he was 18 years old, but he had built a product and technology that was so remarkable and superior to anything else we'd seen in the industry. But more importantly, he had such a good grasp on how the actual gamers were functioning, operating, what appealed most to them, because he himself came from this world. And so he built it.
Targeting gamers, online gamers.
Exactly. So targeting online gamers, but the interesting kind of value he had was it enabled the viewers of the stream to actually participate live with the streamer itself. So they could take over the control even. And so it created this interactivity that we just hadn't seen across any other platform. Now, again, it was small scale, but he had built this technology in a fairly short period of time, and the people that were using it were such rabid users. And so this was a clear indication to us that as an early stage company, if you can gain such like high degree of validation from even a small subset of users and gamers, that there was something very real here. And so no kidding, I literally went back to the hotel that night, and my friend and I wrote up a term sheet, and we presented it the next day.
And this is also a subscription business model?
It was not. It was ad supported, but it was very early, and so different from the athletic, which is more subscription, more consistent revenue, where you can see the growth over time. This was a pure play on the technology, the interactivity, but more importantly, just massive, just validation from the small community. Like we always, with companies we meet with or we invest, I would much rather take a smaller cohort of people that are using the product so rapidly versus a much larger cohort of users that are using it far more sparsely. Yeah. Right? Because it gives you a sense of understanding how the user operates, what really appeals to them. And so we ended up investing in that company, and 8 months later, they got acquired by Microsoft. And those are the kinds of stories, obviously, that are not common. But I think it speaks to kind of our mindset from the investment side, which is it's all about the people. Yeah. And if we're seeing someone developing something that is really unique, we're not scared to move really fast. But if it's something where we need to get to know the founders more and build a relationship, we're also happy to take our time. Now, again, sometimes that luxury doesn't stand if it's a really hot deal or moving really fast. And so part of our job is determining how quick can we move and how much comfort can we gain in a short period of time versus having to learn more and develop more relationships.
I'm going to switch a little bit to trends. Within the sports tech space, let's say, what are the trends, and what are the trends in the different sports? What are the trends in the different geographies since you invest globally? Talk us through a little bit of what's happening, what's the state of the union?
Yeah, sure. So speaking directly about the digital media and content consumption side, something that we are constantly trying to think about is how is a young individual watching sports content. I think we're past the phase now where a 12-year-old or 13-year-old is going to sit there for 3 hours and watch a game. Just doesn't exist anymore. And so we're constantly working with the media companies, early-stage technology companies, trying to determine how will someone who is a younger age or younger demographic actually interact with sports content. Part of it could be just 30-second highlights or a recap on Snap. It could be Instagram. It could be a new platform we've never even heard of. But these are all things that really appeal to us. Now, it's even further nuanced when you look at the way folks consume sports content in other countries, right? You look at something like India, which we've looked at quite a bit. You look at stuff in China. In India, for instance, it is effectively, not all, but very heavy mobile. But at the same time, when it comes to cricket, there's still quite a bit of linear. And so trying to determine where does that audience separate? At what age are more people watching linear versus watching on mobile? And what are the different features, subsets, products, or streams that people are watching? That's something that we think about nonstop. Also in sports,
cricket is a game that people are willing to spend quite a bit of time watching, right? I mean, when I was growing up, we watched a lot of cricket, and those were the days of test matches, 5-day test matches. I can't imagine how much time we wasted watching these test matches. But that's no longer the case, but there's still a longer game.
Definitely still a longer game, less frequency, right? So I think the key is if you are Major League Baseball, for instance, and you have 161 games a year, it's hard to assume that a younger audience is going to watch all of that, right? So same thing with cricket. There's still quite a number of matches, but instead of watching only on your TV for the entire match, you might partially watch on your TV, you might watch part of it on your phone. And that's something that is proliferating really heavily. And so we're trying to figure out, we want to play on the infrastructure side. So obviously 5G or 4G rather in India and the infrastructure that Jio has created is a game changer for a lot of content that is being consumed throughout the country. Similarly, if you look at something like China, China's far more insular in terms of the technologies that are used there. But the market is big enough to have direct deals with some of the major sports leagues, where it's not a third-party media company that comes in. They can really service that on their own. And so every country, at the end of the day, comes down to the same thing. How do you engage the community aspect? How do you create engagement? Because it's not just viewing the match itself. What you're really paying for is, are brands going to get their value in tapping into this demographic? And so we try to determine where all the different places that brands ultimately can engage with that really coveted younger demographic that is tuning in and watching sports. They may not watch 3 or 4 hours at a time, but they're probably checking their app 20 times a day. And so it's higher frequency, lower kind of one-time or single use.
On the other hand, if you look at the games, the types of sports like soccer, that's a whole different dynamic, right?
Yeah, so soccer is very different, and a lot of it stems from, are people more team-driven or player-driven? Right, in the U.S., you look at something like basketball, people are definitely team-driven, and the older generations are team-driven. A lot of what basketball has done is actually more player-driven, right? If a player goes from one team to another, a lot of times people shift their allegiance because they care about the player. Soccer, same thing. People care a lot about the teams, but there's a lot of loyalty behind the players. And when they shift and go to another club, that actually draws a lot of value for that new franchise, for the new fans. And so soccer is a fascinating beast to look at because you have the leagues for the countries, but then you also have the national teams. And the country teams don't necessarily coincide where the player plays. And so you have this massive, you can look at, people in Brazil who love certain European clubs because players from Brazil have gravitated or gone out and played over there. And so that's what really ties the global nature of soccer. And so we look a lot at soccer in terms of different technologies and infrastructure. The beauty of soccer also is that the affinity starts at a very, very young age because youth participation is still, it's not like other sports where players start playing at 10 or 11. You start playing at 4, 5, 6 years old. And so it's inherently kind of built in, even here in the U.S., where soccer is just a part of your youth. And how do you continue to make that or be relevant if you're a European club or an MLS club or Brazilian club? So we have a big focus on youth sports as it pertains to soccer.
So in the portfolio of 30 companies that you've invested in, is there any other that you want to talk about that highlights something else that is worth talking about in the sports tech space?
Yeah, sure. So I can give you a couple examples. One, for instance, is a company called the Drone Racing League. And, when you think about it, people are like, why are you investing in a sports league or a drone league? But the reality is it's an opportunity to own a new sport, right? Drone Racing League has built a business where they make their own drones. They own the league, they own the IP, they own the media rights, and they own the eventual video game revenue. And so that end-to-end kind of ownership was really appealing to us. And the founder of that company is absolutely brilliant. He's done a great job. The one thing that he did early on that really helped was he focused mainly on building a brand. So some people on this may have seen it before, but on ESPN, if you turn it on the weekends for a while, you could see the Drone Racing League matches. And you could, so they created a lot of awareness early on, not only in the U.S., but also throughout Europe. And so the opportunity to own a sports league, because we can't own basketball. NBA owns basketball. Soccer is owned by EPL, La Liga, FIFA, UEFA. But this was an opportunity to own a sport. And so we're constantly thinking about that. What is the sport? No sport lasts the test of time, right? So what sport is a sports fan in 30 years going to care about? Like what's really going to appeal to them? And so that's something else that we look at a lot. And then the fourth is more on the esports side, which is obviously taken, massive tailwinds behind it in terms of just the amount of content consumption on places like YouTube and Twitch and others. But we invested in a company called FanAI, which is an audience monetization and data platform for the video gaming industry. So they go and they aggregate all the different third-party data from streaming platforms, publishers. They also have an exclusive deal with a large payment provider. And so with that, they create this holistic view on what a gamer looks like. And then it enables brands to come in and buy against that. So they're really opening up the entire gaming industry and allowing brands to be a larger part of that ecosystem.
Interesting. Your talk of the Drone Racing League reminds me of Harry Potter and the Quidditch game that J.K. Rowling invented.
That's right. Exactly. I would recommend watching it because when you watch it, it actually does.
Remind you of Quidditch?
Seeing is believing. Yeah, exactly.
Very funny. Okay. All right. Well, is there anything else that you want to add to enlighten us about your sector?
No, I would say, look, the media side, which I talked about, which is content consumption, I think is important. Some other big trends that we really focus on is the health and fitness industry. Yeah. So that is a global phenomenon where you see the purchasing and spending of the younger demographics and ages going through the roof. It's more of a priority than it was for my generation and generations prior because feeling good, looking good, whatever the case is, and being genuinely healthy is, what a lot of people attribute their spend towards, right? Like you will spend more money on an app or a gym today than you did 5 or 10 years ago. And so every country is like that. You look in India, the trends have been phenomenal in terms of just pure fitness. Same thing in Europe. U.S. is a little more mature of a market, but it's a blessing and a curse because when you have a lot of competition in fitness, the acquisition costs are not cheap. And so as an early stage company, it's expensive to acquire. But, I mean, you look at a Peloton type business where it was brilliant where they sell you fairly pricey hardware. But at the end of the day, Peloton's not a hardware company. They're a entertainment media company that also sells hardware. And so as their, I think the last valuation is publicly available, I think was something like $6 billion or $8 billion, right? It's those types of businesses that we're trying to think through. What's going to be the next breakout? What will appeal to a larger audience? Not only people who live in New York, where we live in a bit of a bubble, but people who live in the Midwest, people who live in areas that maybe don't have as much accessibility to a big fancy gym. And so in-home fitness is something we have invested heavily behind, and we will continue to do so as well, just because people don't want to leave their homes. They want convenience, but they still want the same experience and value of what a gym offers.
Now, in the case of the health and fitness ventures, especially where you're doing B2C investments, what level of validation do you want to see before you would invest? Because as you pointed out, customer acquisition is expensive. So.
Yep. You know, it's, again, dependent on the stage. If we're looking at a seed stage deal, no matter what on the fitness side, we want to see a product in market. It's really difficult for us to do a pre-product type investment in fitness because of what we just discussed, which is the actual acquisition cost, but also retention. Understanding those retention cohorts and seeing if there really is long-term viability here is really important for us. But it depends really. If you're going after a hardware product, a lot of times we don't have the luxury of waiting until that company is fully in market because by then they've raised a significant amount of money. And so if it's a more digital-oriented product, we wait until they're in market. We generally want to see at least, I'd say, call it 3 to 6 months of cohort analysis before we can really get a sense of how users are using it. Again, this is a type of business where we don't need to see millions of users in order to invest. It can be single-digit thousands, but having that understanding of how that audience is using it, how frequently their willingness to pay is vitally important.
Yeah. And do you also, have you done marketplaces in that space? Because there's a lot of marketplace activity as well.
Yeah, so we haven't done any pure marketplaces in the fitness world. We've looked at a lot. There's some interesting companies certainly around that. Our biggest challenge around pure marketplaces there is the leakage issue. And so if you're going after a marketplace, let's say for personal trainers, for instance, it's easy to take that transaction offline. And so we're constantly trying to think of, like, if it's for instance, we've invested in a company that is a digital personal trainer, where you have an actual personal trainer on the back end, but they're not with you there in person, but they literally know everything going on in your life. And they will create new programs for you daily. And so that's a higher touch point, but it's not necessarily a marketplace because you're given a trainer, and that trainer is really highly credentialized. So we kind of like that, having a bit more facilitation there than purely a marketplace dynamic. We are really bullish on the personal training industry in general, though, because as more money is spent across the industry, that's continuing to grow. Okay.
Very good. Well, fascinating conversation about a world that we don't encounter every day here, but there is a lot going on, and that's why I wanted you to come to us and tell us about it. So thank you for sharing your insights.
Absolutely. No, thank you for having me on here. And
yeah?
No, please go ahead.
I was going to say, if you have a few minutes, we're going to do an entrepreneur pitch next. So stick around and let's see what we have here.
I'd love that. That would be great.
Anil, are you on the call? What's happening, Anil?
Hello, can you hear us?
Yes, go ahead.
Okay, great. For a minute there, I thought you couldn't hear us. Okay, so thanks a lot for this insightful discussion, and thanks a lot for having us here. If you sense a little bit of, elation in my voice, that's because India is at a historic
I have no idea how this happened, but here you are with the game. All right, go for it.
Yeah, I mean, we have managed to elect a very stable government, and I hope it translates into positive investor sentiments because the markets opened at an all-time high today. And I hope it really means something for us startups who have just bootstrapped ourselves. So introducing ourselves. Sorry. Introducing ourselves is Proctor Games. It's Anil, that's me, and then Arjit, who's my co-founder. And we have been buddies in fitness and business, and we put two minds together to come up with this business idea of Proctor Games. Deepen, when you were actually talking about Strava, it was kind of resonating with me because I am a passionate cyclist. I have written blogs about something called the cycling salesman, because everywhere I go, I always cycle to my client place and customer meetings as well. Arjit comes with 15 years of experience in, as a game designer and game developer in interactive designs. He made his first game when he was 10, and he's been hooked on since then. And Arjit has been a part of 3 successful startups before this, and this is the 4th. So next slide, please. Proctor Games is actually into serious games and game-based assessments. So assessments made playable is our tagline. We are into data-driven analytics based on evaluation of human player behavior, and this is why we are into game-based assessments domain. Next slide, please. So why game-based assessments? Because here is what we found, that there is an inherent problem with the way in which assessments are being done today. Even though the science of assessments has evolved over time into Neo Big Five that is there, and a lot of psychometric analysis that have actually shaped over time into revealing personalities, but they have been unable to capture the actual human behavior with the interaction of an assessment, because they are mainly direct Q&A type inputs, and the output that comes out is also in terms of a score or a percentage, percentile, and things like that. So who's really facing this problem? It is actually a whole lot of industries, right from the education sector to corporate, IT, manufacturing, government, everyone who is basically trying to use assessment in order to measure human performance. And they have been unable to actually strategically evaluate and improvise any system dependent on human capital, because this assessment is failing to actually capture the human behavior in the interaction with the game itself, in the interaction with the assessment itself, and hence our game-based. Okay, we'll come to the solution. I believe I have addressed the problem pretty well. So what are the shortcomings and how people are actually handling assessments today? I know it's a little content heavy, so I'll just kind of give the essence of it. Assessments are not attracting sufficient and relevant information, and this is actually leaving a whole lot of room for improvisation. The analytics data that is and the reports that are being generated are actually not dynamic enough and not user-friendly, which makes them less readable and usable in real time. The assessments are not engaging enough for an SSE. I will come to this, I will expand on this problem later when we actually come to the real use case of how our product has been able to find a market fit. Most assessments have a direct Q&A interaction with the SSE, and hence they are lacking the potential to extract information hidden in human behavior, and that is where we are primarily focused on. How do we solve the problem? We are solving the problem today with game-based assessments. And these assessments, when they are administered to a certain group of SSEs, so they are able to, when they play these kind of shortened versions of games, and mind you, they are not actually full-length games that we are talking about. They are scenario-based shortened versions of games where the games are designed backwards from what we actually want to bring out in the, we want to learn from the assessments of the candidates. So for example, if you want to know about psychometric analysis, about the experience, about the skill, or about the applied knowledge of the candidate who is actually taking that particular assessment, then this is done through reverse engineering the gameplay itself. So this GPA, sorry, if you could go back. So game learning analytics is actually in a way a data-driven approach where the complete data is captured after the SSE has played the game, and then the analytics of how he has played the game is captured through this underlying analytics of the game itself. I will come to this when I start expanding more about the kind of product that we have developed. So now actually this has a wide range of possibilities and avenues, right from recruitment and hiring to analyzing the culture within an organization. When we actually presented it to a company, some of them asked, we have a huge problem with attrition, so could you actually help us in analyzing the culture from top down and bottoms up? Someone said that we want to know what is the actual effect and ROI of leadership training before and after. Some of them said that, in Lean Six Sigma, when we spoke to the manufacturing industry itself, they said that we actually impart a lot of Six Sigma training to our entire manufacturing staff, and that output comes out as a collective. It comes out as a collective output, but it is not being addressed at an individual level. So if you could have, if this kind of assessment could throw up at an individual level, then we could actually give more attention to who has understood and not understood this training. Then in the education industry, for the students in hospitality, technology, healthcare, in armed forces, it finds a very interesting relevance where they wanted to know if we actually had a small call with the Danish army, where they said if post-traumatic stress can actually be analyzed through a game like this, and then we would know whether the army men who are coming back from a stressful assignment actually require and who require it and to what extent do they require it. So these were the different use cases that we came across in the industry. Okay. And so we started with this idea of HCE, Play Evaluate, became a human capital evaluation platform. And this and the different the products that we came upon were Culture Fab. So Culture Fab is the attrition analysis of the complete company. Leader Crest is the before and after leadership assessment. HireFit is actually trying to look at what is trying to solve the problem of the internal candidates as well as the external hiring of employees. Career Right is actually trying to map what is there as the talent pool of engineering colleges today and what the companies really want. So Career Right is where we thought that we will administer it to engineering students, because today a whole lot of IT companies are going to colleges and they are actually testing. What they really want is personalities and their attitudes, but they're not able to get that. So, because they say that we are going to take everybody into software programming, irrespective of what their field of engineering is, and we are going to train them. So they are looking for that attitude, they are looking for that personality of who's really good in programming, but today they are not able to get that. So it's very subjective today. Next slide. So, because I said that, in the previous slide that Play Evaluate is a long-term goal, our current goal is to actually develop this, and that's what we are doing now, to develop the product called HireFit, which is primarily into personality evaluation based on the candidate's roles and responsibilities. So I do believe that, yes, we are entering into a crowded market of recruitment and solving the recruitment industry's problem. But here we believe that we are bringing a very interesting insight which the industry doesn't have. And this is about trying to, and HireFit, which is, it is actually designed in such a way that we are trying to bring out the most critical requirement of human capital, and this will be to a particular role of a programmer, manager, business analyst, sales, etc. So each module will be created such that it will be a series of games to capture the desired attributes of the particular job role. if I have to give an example, so for example, let's say, can we go back? Or am I going too fast or too slow? I mean, do I have some feedback?
Well, if you want to have a conversation about your business, you're going to need to move along a little bit. I think we understand what you're doing, so let's, you don't need to go into every line. You don't need to read every line of the slide.
Okay, all right, sure. So this is our a milestone actually, where in Q1 is when we are going to be starting with the development of HireFit, and then we've got a soft launch of HireFit to 4 customers. Monetize HireFit roles. We've got different roles coming up in terms of programmer, tester, sales, a manager, and stuff like that. So we've got 10 roles mapped out. And in August 2020 is when we want to branch out to bring in many more other products on like CareerRight, LeaderCrest, Culture Fab, and stuff. Next
so these
slide.
4 customers are identified or not?
Yes. Yes.
So you are going to
that
market.
well.
You're developing the product in collaboration with 4 customers.
That's right.
And what kind of customers are these?
Mainly the IT industry.
How big?
So, sorry?
How big? Are they enterprise customers, mid-market customers? What are we talking about?
Yeah, they are at all levels. If we could jump a few slides, I've actually named them. One more slide. The next slide. The next slide. Yeah. So here we are. 4 customers with letters of interest who are willing to pilot our beta within their organization. One is Razorpay, which is which is into the payments, wallets and payments thing. Quest Global, which is a services company. It is a $2 billion company. Yodlee, which is a product company, again a $1 billion company. CultFit is also almost becoming it's a startup, but by ex-Flipkart guys who have started it, and it is on its way to becoming a unicorn startup.
And what are you looking for right now? It seems like you're pre-product, but you have 4 customers who are willing to work with you to get you to the launch. What are you looking for right now?
This is exactly where we are. So we realized we require $120,000 to build our first product, HireFit, and we've actually invested our own $30,000, and we ran out of gas. And this is where we are stuck in a catch-22 situation because, like Deepen earlier said, the investors are looking for a product to fund, and then in order to attract funding, we need to show a built product.
Deepen, would you like to comment on the business so far, what you've heard? I'll give you my feedback also in a moment.
Yeah. So question for you, so the $120,000 alone, without that you guys cannot launch any of the betas?
So yes, we would require it because there are games that we have to develop, the APIs that we have to connect, a whole lot of other investments that we require.
Got it. Yeah, I mean, look, this feels like a true catch-22 from the sense that in order to really get investors intrigued by what you're doing, having LOIs is great, but actually being in the beta will make a fundamental difference for people to see how your product's being used. And whether there's a real shot of turning them over to larger paying customers. So is there any other way to get that $120,000 than trying to raise for investors? Would any of the customers be willing to actually help you develop it with them in partnership, where even if they own a little piece of it just to get it off the ground? I think that will help offset a lot of your risk and also enable you to go to investors with a better story and real paying customer.
Okay,
yeah,
so we did have those kinds.
What you said, Deepen. This is right now what you have here is unfundable with institutional investors. You're going to either have to work with people who know you which is the FFF, friends, family, and fools kind of category. So people who are willing to invest in you as opposed to in your business, that's the category that would be okay investing pre-product, especially in something that is so nebulous, right? It's like this product, whether this will work or not is entirely dependent on the product that you're going to deliver. So investors, without looking at what is this product, just on a concept basis, are not going to invest, not institutional investors. So you're going to have to look in your own networks to see if anybody who knows you and your co-founders and are willing to write checks. Otherwise, customers, if you can convince customers to do that, that's great. But I don't think this is fundable with the institutional investors.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, even angels who know the space, a lot of times companies that are pre-product, pre-revenue that we're talking to, even then it's going to be a challenge. But if you can really sell someone who has maybe sold a company or who knows the space very well and get them to know you and like you, that's probably your best shot here.
Yeah.
Thanks a lot for that input. I have a question. So, hi, this is Arjit here. I was with Anil sitting in. I didn't speak so far, so I'm talking now. So I have a question that so we have come so far with our game designs now with the investment that we had so far, and we are also going for a bank loan to further develop the system which will enable us to make our games consumable, like the back end and the payment processing, etc. So, and we can go on. There is another bank loan that we can take after that. But I just would like to have your opinion as to, once we start moving forward with this, how soon, what is the earliest point would you define as we can be considered as fundable?
If you have successful customer situations where customers like your product and are willing to write checks to buy your product, that's when you become fundable. But let me actually also comment a little bit on what you said about bank loans. Do you have bank loans already approved? Because bank loans are not easy to get at this stage either.
Yeah, we are going for a bank loan. We are putting up collateral. So, yeah.
So you're putting personal collaterals to get bank loans?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yep.
Got it. All right. Okay. Well, unfortunately, that's probably the direction that you're going to have to hustle into. You're going to have to use your personal collaterals and personal relationships to get this thing funded to a level where you have customer validation. And frankly, if you can get customer validation, if you can prove that this thing is working, and if you have the kinds of customers that you're talking about, it's probably going to be sizable deals. After that, you get customers to write checks, and if you have like 4 customers to begin with, another 20 companies, keep the discussions going with the 20 companies, and you can probably close very significant deals just the minute you start showing that your product works, and that's going to start acting as seed financing. We like customer financing more than anything else, frankly.
Yeah, I would add one thing. Don't misconstrue a free beta with customers. So if you're going through this beta process, try to get them to pay you something. Yeah. Really, that's what a lot of times when companies come to us and they're doing a beta and they have a big customer that's not paying or is only going to pay upon success, that doesn't give much validation behind it. So do whatever you can to get them to pay you something, at least.
Yeah.
Or define it such that there is a payment very clearly defined. These are the metrics you're going to show, and once you show these metrics, this is the payment that the customer is going to pay you. So that means that path to payment needs to be defined very clearly up front in the beta process.
Yes. So the kind of deal we have defined, the discussion that we have with our soft launch and beta customers is that we're going to have white papers done based on the internal workforce. And if they're okay with that, when they start actually using the product in the market and hiring, that's when they're going to pay us for them.
Yeah, but remember, there's all sorts of inertia inside companies to adopt products. You could have 6 months before they actually start using in the market, but that's why you need to define the beta process very, very cleanly so that there is real commitment and real payments in a very definable, deterministic timeline. That's the thing that we're looking for here.
Yeah,
right.
Understood.
All right, so we actually completed Suren's presentation. Thank you, Anil and Arjit. Good luck with your venture. We did Suren's presentation already, so I'm going to spend a few minutes just talking to you about how to use the program 1 million by 1 million, and then we can go to Q&A. Now, if you like what we're doing here,
sorry, I have to hop off into a meeting, but I just wanted to say thank you so much for having me, and if I can ever be helpful to even anyone who's attending on this, please let me know. Always feel free to email me. It's deepen@courtsidevc.com.
All right, thank you, Deepen. Thanks for coming today. We have a cricket company, actually. I don't know if they're interested in talking to you, but I will check with them.
Please have them reach out if so.
Okay, bye.
Thank you. All right, bye-bye.
So, folks, the feedback here is pretty much unsugar-coated, authentic, direct feedback. Very specific agenda is to help you accelerate your ventures. We can't achieve that by telling you what you want to hear. We have to give you what you need to hear so that you can address those issues. So if you like that, bring other entrepreneurs and your friends and family into the program. In terms of resources, everything is at 1Mby1M.com. There's a terrific blog. Just by following that, you'll learn a lot. The Entrepreneur Journeys book series, there are 12 volumes. You can learn from those. They're all available on Amazon. These roundtables happen pretty much every week, although we have a little bit of a gap next week to early June because I'm traveling. I'll be back and resuming on June 13th, I think. But definitely use these roundtables to learn. The full acceleration program from 1M is 1M Premium. And there we offer you extensive methodology guidance. We have a full curriculum that is extensive and very deep. There are many hundred hours worth of curriculum addressing many different topics that you need to learn in this journey. We help you with business development. Our Rolodex is available to the premium members. And we help you with strategy consulting similar to these, but in private members-only session. We help you with financing, but you have to be ready to be introduced to investors before we can introduce you. Just by joining the program, you don't get introduced to investors. We need to get on the same page with you and decide that you are fundable before we make those introductions. But once you are, you could get, within 30 minutes, you could get introduced to 15, 20, 30 investors if your business has that kind of applicability. Of course, what we looked at today in sports tech is a more particular kind of investment, and I often bring you niches and different geographies and so forth just to give you perspective, and this was one of those. Go look at the self-assessment questionnaire on the blog, on the website. That is something that we encourage you to go through with your business and assess where you stand. If you get stuck in answering those questions, these are the questions investors typically ask you. If you get stuck, go do 1M Basic, which is our curriculum-only option, just $99 a month. If you can allocate 20, 30, 50 hours in 1 month in going through some of the curriculum and addressing your methodology gaps, you will win a lot. This is a very effective way to make progress with your ventures. So dig around on the website. There's tons of information about what to expect from premium, what to expect from basic, FAQs, video FAQs, detailed description of the curriculum. It is a case study-based curriculum. We have over 1,000 successful case studies of successful entrepreneurs, and lots of stuff to learn from them. Over 100 unicorns, 400 plus venture-funded companies, another 400 plus bootstrap companies. So lots of exciting, informative material that you can really learn from. Our methodology is bootstrap, capital efficient, startups, and the philosophy is bootstrap first, raise money later. So as you heard from Deepen, you have to get some level of validation with which institutional investors would engage with you. If you don't have that, investors tend not to engage. And we are aware of that, which is why we put you through the process of getting ready for investors as opposed to sending you to investors directly, in which case you would typically get rejected. We don't want that. So the next few roundtables are June 13th, 20th, 27th, so 3 in June. We also have 2 in-person rendezvous in June, June 12th and June 26th, and there are 2 in July. So usual schedule, 5 to 6 p.m. at Cafe Boroni in Menlo Park. If you're local in Silicon Valley or you're visiting Silicon Valley, please come by, and they're always very enjoyable session. Yesterday was a fabulous rendezvous at Cafe Boroni. And that's it. We're ready for Q&A at this point. You can call in or you can ask your questions in public chat. I'll pick up questions from public chat. While you're putting your questions together, let me introduce you to Irina Patterson. If you have questions about the program, reach out to Irina at 1Mby1M.com and she'll answer your questions. Anybody? Questions, comments? Feedback? No?
Well, hi, this is Anil here. Shramana,
yes, Anil.
Can you hear us? Yeah.
Yes, we can hear you.
Yeah,
Go ahead.
Good. We did get to, we are actually now trying to reach out to, different investors, trying to see if maybe we would want to.
I wouldn't do that. Anil, I wouldn't do that. You're going to blow a lot of cartridges with which then afterwards we won't be able to do much for you. If you blow investor pitches at a stage where you're not prepared, investors would refuse to meet with you when you are prepared. And that's a real problem. I have this problem with a lot of entrepreneurs who prematurely go to investors and then my cartridges are lost. Going to investors prematurely is a no-no, is a complete no-no. Don't do that. You're not ready for investors.
So then the only other option is for us is to go to get those bank loan, and that's the reason why banks were also holding off till the announcement of the election. So now that we have this coming up, well, I think it's going to be positive for us. So because the central government had introduced a few schemes for startups which they were dispersing through banks, and so because of the election time, the banks had kind of held back. So I think now it's going to be, it's actually good news for us. So let's see, we're going to go back to the banks and see how it is going to work out.
Hi, Shramana, Arjit here.
Yes, Arjit.
Hi, Shramana. Well, I'm really happy for today's discussion, and I'm kind of motivated more after this call to keep doing whatever we're doing. I would like to have your, since you have seen so many pitches, products, good, bad, ugly, everything, I want to know your personal opinion. What do you think about what we are trying to do here?
Well, conceptually, it's interesting, but it's really, for what you're doing, it really depends on what you deliver in the product. And I have no idea. I don't really know you, so I have no idea what you're going to do in this product. So until you are able to put a compelling product together that actually works, it's very hard to say what are the prospects of your business. So you have conviction. You are, you know what you have in what is your vision, what you have in your head. You know where you're going and what you're doing. So you have to translate that into something tangible based on which, strangers like me can actually look at, not just me, but me, investors, customers, people who will be, making value judgments on whether your product works or not, can do something with, right? We need something tangible. Right now you have concepts.
Okay, true.
Yeah? Okay.
Okay.
Good luck.
Thank you so much.
All of you.
Yeah, thanks a lot.
Thank you,
You're
Shramana.
very
This is
welcome.
Suren. yeah, again, just I need one final feedback on the pitch on Cloudly and Cloudly.
So Suren, you're going to need to redo the pitch. The pitch is not an investor pitch. What you have currently is not an investor pitch. I think you have the goods of what you're doing, and it can be pitched as an investor pitch, but you don't have the elements of an investor pitch right now. And if you need help with that, just join the premium program and we'll help you put that together. It's not difficult.
Perfect. Sounds like a plan. Thank you. Thanks for your time.
So you can go into if you join the program, go into the curriculum, look up the investor pitch templates and start putting it together as soon as you're ready. Come and work with me at one of the private roundtables, and I'll it will take me a few weeks to work with you. I'll give you a bunch of homeworks, and it's not going to be very long before I can streamline this for you.
Perfect. Thank you. Thanks for your time.
All right, folks, it looks like we don't have any other questions in public chat, and Anil, Arjit, and Suren are all set. So I'm going to adjourn the session. I will see you in a few weeks. I'm going to take a vacation, and then we will get back and start working again soon. And good luck. Make lots of progress in the meantime. Bye-bye.